get this started, Jason. But after
Yeah, I think that was a good introduction. We can go to we could start the slides, I guess, and
yeah,
go through and let everyone know what we're here for. This is our first Community Advisory Committee meeting for the Foothills District Framework Plan Update.
yeah,
We're really excited to meet you all. I know there was a process of assembling you all, and appreciate you stepping up to the table. I think a lot of people are excited about what might happen in the Foothills, and given the history and the variety of studies that have gone on. And I've been working for about 25 years, and the East End redevelopment plan is some of the early work I've worked on, and Lake Grove, and so I love seeing things come full circle, and this does feel like a great opportunity to re-engage one of the most incredible spaces in Lake Oswego. To connect to the river is really awesome. So thank you everyone for being here. Good evening is the next slide, so we're really glad that it's a good evening now that you all are here. There's an agenda. We're going to do introductions because I think the first part of this is really getting to meet you all. We did some names, which is great, so it's helpful to at least have a name to a face, but we want to hear a little bit about what motivates you and brought you here today. We'll have an overview of the Foothills District, just sort of high level, like what sort of precipitated why we're here at this moment, and some of the things that we're trying to accomplish based on the work that the city's been doing around housing and wastewater treatment. So we'll get into that a little bit. Eric will walk us through the work plan a bit. So we've got this schedule charted out, and we're kind of mapping it and trying to hit target dates. And so we'll share that information with you. There'll be some review of the bylaws around what it means to be on a citizen advisory committee and kind of the expectations and sort of the rules of the game, and we'll go through that. Eric will lead that part. We'll sort of adopt that, say, yeah, we sort of agree with that, and then look for an election of a chair and co-chair, so formal stuff at the end, and then we'll talk about when a good time is to meet regularly throughout the process, and so we can sort of talk about days and times that might work best for the group. We'll try to lock into that, and then we'll create a follow-up schedule throughout the project that hits that cadence of day and time. Every sort of month or so, we'll be checking in with you all. We'll go over that, the schedule of how often we'll meet and the topics that we'll be discussing. Is there a comment from folks off?
Oh, Christina, I think you should probably mute. It might be coming through your.
So the next slide just sort of orients. There's a kind of a team of people here. You're seeing two folks, myself and Will. We're those three letters, First 40 Feet. We're an urban design firm out of Portland, Oregon. This type of work, I've been doing downtown revitalization for about almost 30 years. I don't know that old, but I kind of am. And as I mentioned, done a lot of work in Lake Oswego with a firm called Crandall Arambula back in the day. So some of you might remember George Crandall. And Will is principal of our firm, and he's kind of our director, and we have a team behind us, and maybe Will can talk through sort of who our partners are helping us on the design, engineering, cost estimating. This can be a part of it. So
yeah, we do have a great team behind us. They wish they could all be here, but Echo Northwest, I'll start there. They're our economic consultants. They're the ones who give us a little bit more reality of what actually can happen. They do a market analysis study for us. They'll guide decisions on programming and land use. We use other tools as well. They're going to give us a really great insight on what is marketable. I mean, even just future, not only current, but future. The economy right now is tough for development. Obviously, we're learning more. We had interviews today actually with developers about this project. We have a series of those. We'll get into the engagement portfolio here that we are working on. One of those is the development. They're going to lead those interviews with developers. We're also a part of those as well. We're learning. Apex is our engineers. They're looking at environmental survey work, just existing conditions. What is here? The inventory and analysis of the site. Anything from transportation, access, River's Edge, all of that. So a lot of input, a lot of insight there. Existing conditions is a pretty good chunk of just the learning and discovery phase. And we want to get as much of that as we can. So they're helping. DHM, they're local. DHM is a local focus research firm. We're going to create focus groups for us in the community. And these are random people that they're mining these people. I don't know who they are yet, but very diverse collection of individuals that are going to help us with just insights and questions that he's going to pose. It's kind of like showing a commercial and saying, okay, what do you think about this commercial? That's what I think of when I think of like a focus group. Like, okay, that's interesting. So that's a lot of fun. They're really great. Bookend group. After the first year of work, once we have a concept or a framework, they're going to adopt. Their code revisions. They're going to look at zoning. They work with Eric and the team on adopting what we come up with. So it was a whole year after this of adoption, post amendment, or I guess post plan would be the amendment phase. So that they're helping us. That DCW, you mentioned cost estimating. Every so often, we're going to lean on our cost estimator. Figure out, okay, what's the ROM on what we're coming up with. So the city has a pretty good idea of like cost ranges, things like that, depending on moving things and shifting things. We don't know yet, but they're going to help us with that. A great team, and we have First 40 we have a team of designers, planners, landscape architects who are going to be helping us as well. So you'll meet them; they'll be in and out. Exciting.
Any questions about who we are? Or... No? Okay. Let's go to the next slide, because this is the city of Lake Oswego. They're administering this project. They're leading this with support from Metro, who's helping with funding, and so we have our representative Stacy Humphrey on the line as well. But I'll let sort of Eric take over the chain of command from the city as they lead us through this effort.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I think I've sort of introduced myself to many of you, at least so far, but I'm Eric Olson. I'm the project manager for this from the city side of things. I'm also the long-range planning manager within the planning department, so I act as the liaison to the planning commission, and also have done a lot of sort of long-range planning work and help shepherd those projects through our department. A lot of that lately related to housing. So yeah, excited to get going on this project. It's been a while since I've done sort of a district plan and, you know, sort of more formal type of planning and not just policy work. So this is very exciting stuff. And yeah, it's an underutilized area of the city that has a lot of potential and just an immense number of opportunities there. So it's just kind of, yeah, so I'm very excited to be here. I guess with that, maybe I'll throw it back to Jessica for. That's okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Newmonaloo. It's hard to know how to pronounce it, but the G is silent. I'm the Community Development Director here. I am here to Eric, this is obviously a huge project, so I'm part of the project team, but of course, I was actually around when the original 2012 plan was adopted, although I wasn't directly involved with that. I'm aware of what happened and what went down, and I'm really excited to see it being revived again. And like I said, it's a great opportunity, and one of the few that we have left in the city because we're mostly built out. So yeah, excited about the project, and thank you all so much for being here and for being part of this. It is, yeah, this group is going to be incredibly important in helping us see this plan through.
Just want to echo that. We're all extremely grateful that you've all dedicated your time to this. A pretty long advisory committee, you know, a couple years. This is longer than a typical task force or advisory committee, so it's a little bit more of a commitment, and we really appreciate you all signing up. We got a lot of interest, and I think we have a good group here. Anyway, I guess I'll just introduce Stephen. He wasn't able to make it today, but he will be involved with a lot of different sort of more technical phases of the project. He is our director of special projects at the city, but more specifically, he is the project manager for the wastewater treatment facility, the new replacement facility that has been in the works for a couple of years now and is still kind of in the works, I guess. But yeah, he's going to be our, sort of main point of contact with the engineering department. He also, kind of working in public works as well. So, yeah, he will be an integral part of everything here. And Christina, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, or I can just do a quick.
I'm Christina. I'm part of the county admin team. I can really assist the planning.
Helping get the word out.
Yeah, she's been sending you a lot of emails, I think, and yeah, also helps out with the planning commission. Helps me liaise to those folks as well. But yeah, thank you for everything. And I think we've already talked about the First 40 Feet team, but I don't know if you want to do.
Yeah, again, I'm Jason Graff. I'm a principal at First 40 Feet, and Will Grimm. The next piece is really hearing from you all, and I think for folks who aren't in the room, I kind of want you all to start. So maybe Monica and Rachel, just introduce yourself and, tell us about your interest around Foothills and Lake Oswego. So Monica, why don't you go ahead and start and give us an introduction?
Hi, I'm Monica Goodwin. I'm currently a sophomore at Lake Oswego High School. And I guess my main interest with Foothills is it's kind of a place where my friends and I go all the time. And I do think that it is an area that's kind of like hidden by all of the industrial buildings and things like that around there. And so I do think that it would be much better to change that area to make it more accessible and make it more family friendly.
Nice.
Thanks, Monica. Can you hear us okay online?
Yeah, no, I can hear you
Okay.
guys perfectly.
Great. Yeah, just let us know if there's any challenges there along the way. All right.
Rachel, would you mind going next? You're on mute.
Oh yeah, you're on mute, Rachel, but can you hear us?
Do we need to unmute?
We should be.
Or do we?
Not sure if she is able to. Anyway, we can come back to you, Rachel. Sorry about that. But yeah, it looks like you're muted from our side of things, at least. So yeah, I guess we can just go around and maybe, or yeah, I mean,
start with Jim, and we'll come back to Rachel.
Yeah.
I don't know, Christina, if you can look at that and see if we can unmute. But Jim, I'd love to hear more about who you are and what brought you here today.
Great. My name is Jim Meyer. I taught environmental education for 26 years. Loss of vision forced me to retire, which was heartbreaking, but I got to be a stay-at-home dad, which was exhilarating. I would like to speak on my vision just for a second, just so you're not confused by it. I'm visually disabled, the central vision that's kind of out of whack. He's sitting next to me, like, well, I can see just fine. If you're across the way, I have to look off to the side a little bit to see you, which can be distracting. So don't feel like I'm ignoring you or you got something on your face there. Community is really important to me. So getting to know names and stuff. When I was teaching, it was a superpower of mine. My vision is the kryptonite to that. So if you see me just saying, hey, Jen, it's Kara, she does it for me all the time. It really helps. And then I start getting to know voices and stuff, and I recognize people a lot faster. Just be patient with me. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Served on the Parks Board, our Parks Plan 2040 Community Advisory Committee, and that was an incredible experience. That led me to serve currently on the Parks Board, which has been amazing. And when I saw this pop up, I live in the Foothills area, the condos at Oswego, and it's home. And I walk 8 miles every morning around the neighborhood. Very familiar with every pebble. So I'm excited to be a part of this team and collaborate.
Welcome.
What do you think, Lisa? You're next.
I'm Lisa Shaw Ryan. I too have been here for a long time and have served with several of you on various committees. I think of Jeff and the web building project many years ago. I guess that would be 18 years ago now that I think about that. was pregnant with my second child, and so I remember that pretty clearly. But I'm very excited to participate in this, and as you said, it's one of our remaining large assets that could potentially be something amazing. And I like a project that, well, obviously it's going to take a little while, so I'm excited to be here. I own some restaurants in the downtown area. My kids go to school here, and always love this community, so
Great.
here.
Yeah, glad you're here.
Thank you so much for dedicating your time to this and so many things over the last 18 years, it sounds like.
Where are your restaurants? Are they in downtown? or-
Downtown,
Nice.
Chucky Pie's Pizzeria, Casa Pequeña Taqueria, and we just opened the steakhouse in Jewel Box Steak.
Oh, awesome. I think I've been to two of those.
If you're hungry.
I might bring some snacks at some point.
Cool.
I've already introduced myself, but I'm Eric. If you don't remember, go straight to Randy though.
All right, thank you. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm Randy Arthur. I live on North Shore Road in Lake Oswego on Lakewood Bay. And with my wife, Katie, our son graduated from Lake Oswego High School. We've been in Lake Oswego about 18 years. During that time, I served on and chaired the Planning Commission for Citizen Involvement. And at the beginning of my term, we actually worked on the present Foothills plan that we recommended to the City Council that was ultimately adopted by the City Council. And then I served on the Development Review Commission, working at times with Jessica and the other commissioners for a number of years. And I formerly served on a Citizens Advisory Committee, working with Eric, relating to middle housing in Lake Oswego. But I was particularly pleased to have an opportunity to work on this committee with all of you, because I've always been interested in Foothills from those days when we worked on the original plan in the Planning Commission. So I'm really excited to be part of this group.
Thanks. Trell?
Thanks. I'm Trell Anderson. I am the Executive Director of Northwest Housing Alternatives, which has 2 senior affordable housing properties in Lake Oswego. I don't live here. I did once for 3 years downtown, loved it, but currently live in Southeast Portland. 3 of my stepkids graduated from Lake Ridge, and so I do have an affinity for the community and what goes on here. In 2012, when I was, that's when the original plan was conceived and worked on. I was the Executive Director of Clackamas Housing Authority, and so followed along. Had colleagues participating in that discussion, that dialogue. So I feel a responsibility to kind of step in to the opportunity as an affordable housing provider. And I have a background in urban and regional planning as well. So all of them, I love the maps and lots of questions.
Good.
But excited to be here and excited to learn from all of you as well. That is always something I'm looking forward to. When you can you describe why the name of your company, what it means, what it references?
Yeah, it's funny, sometimes that people ask us, are you a shoe company? We were starting. So we did not want to name our company after ourselves. You often see that, like letters. And we decided that the canvas for which we work is what we want to name our company. And it's also nice branding and also like a good conversational start, right? Like, what does it mean? What is it? Well, the first 40 feet is an old planning adage. You know, well, if you study planning, it's like that's how they describe the perception that, like, where humans can experience space, place. There's a dimensional quality. First 40 feet up of a building, first 40 feet out of a street, first 40 feet in now is like kind of what we're talking about too. But that's like where the magic happens. So that connection of building and place, the streetscape. And we don't focus on just that. Like, to get that right, you kind of have to zoom out. Like, think about you get there. So it's just like the place where we live, where we love, and we like even just having these questions about what it means. It's like I could talk about it for a long time. If different people have different ways of interpreting what first 40 feet means, and that's kind of the start of it. But you know, different stories every time. Whenever we just had a conference called First 40 Feet. Like, hey, conference session's called First 40 Feet, and it's our company, so that works out like that. So
Get it, that's cool.
yeah.
Before I hand it over, I wanted to add that, you probably heard of the Lake Oswego Lake Run? We're the primary sponsor and
Great.
beneficiary of the Lake Run.
Yes.
So
And we appreciate you
So
doing
I needed to add that, and, next year will be the 50th.
Oh, wow.
Everyone here is expected to.
Yeah. Start
We'll be
training,
competitive. I'm Joe Buck, I'm your mayor, and really want to thank all of you for participating. We, hand selected all of you from all those interested as we're learning all your varied backgrounds and levels of experience, both, with the community and in your individual life. I know what a commitment this is. You're all very busy, and so thank you for making the commitment to stick with us, hopefully, for this 2-year process. It's important. But aside from that, I wasn't quite on the city council in 2012. We did the first plan. But it's interesting to think about, because we're right now just winding down the East End urban renewal area plan, and so it's been decades, right, in the community. And it's funny because we think, like, when we make these plans, we're always thinking about what's relevant at the time, right? But also, like, what's trying to think ahead into the future. And so it's kind of interesting to think about, well, and as we're winding down the East End, we say, wow, like, all the successful things have been done downtown, but, like, also what's missing? What didn't we think about? And it's so interesting is now to see the community's priorities now. Like, here we're talking about Foothills. We're talking about, like, housing, for instance. Housing was never a part of the East End, which seems kind of wild, right? Because, I mean, we would never think Foothills, like, just anything but housing. But I mean, that is literally what we did with the downtown. Yeah. And we think about, like, of all areas of town, like, where can't you ride your bike? Downtown. There's no bike lanes, and that seems so elementary now, but back then it wasn't, a thing. So I'm grateful too to have our, like, student representatives on this board. I mean, we can all think to the future, but their perspectives, especially, it could be a little more forward-looking in terms of what we should be thinking about as we plan these things. And I think the other important element here is, the last Foothills plan, it failed politically, and it was a kind of a developer-driven. Speaking of firms that name themselves after, there was a certain firm that had a certain names in it, and there were community members involved, but it was really like a developer-driven plan, and you kind of, I think, strive for, like, a mix in these projects, because the plan has to work. The plan has to work, so you need it to be palatable for developers. But if the community is not on board, then it's not good. And that the last plan, the community was not on board, and they didn't find that out until after the plan was done. And then they learned immediately that the community was not on board. So that's a big role. All of us are going to also, in addition to providing our advice, we have to be the kind of the salespeople of this, and ideally through our input, we'll make it that way. Also being out in the community and selling this to folks. We definitely do not want this 2-year effort to get flushed down the toilet. Right. It's not going to. We're at a different kind of point in as a community. This has been and Jeff, can speak to this too. I mean, as contentious as Foothills was, even when I was running for office, people were like, just promise me, you won't do anything with Foothills. But now, I mean, this project has unanimous council support, big support within the community. I mean, people see all the benefits that it could bring, and we're kind of at a point in Lake Oswego's history where people want a more connected community, a more welcoming community that's open both with to ourselves, but also to the outside. So, which is great. And those are all great things that a lot of you have been a part of and are kind of opening the doors now to us able to move this plan forward.
Thank you. That's a good segue into why we're here.
I'm Melissa Williams, and my background is in advertising and sales, and I've lived in Lake Oswego for 20 years, and my kids raised them through Lake Oswego High School, and have lived in the Westlake neighborhood, and my kids are now college and beyond, and it's an interesting time for me to be involved in this because I'm now like an empty nester. I'm looking to sell my house, and I'm looking to downsize. And I'm like, oh, I'd want to live in Foothills for sure. And, you know, get something smaller and where I could walk to downtown and walk on it's just me now. And and for years when I've gone walking down along Foothills, I'm like, what is all this prime real estate doing as industrial, you know, when it's right by the river and right by downtown? So I'm glad to see that there's something being done. And I've also, I was one of the many people that helped start LO for Love, which some of you might be familiar is their mission has been for diversity, equity, and inclusion in Lake Oswego. And I most recently worked for volunteers, work for free, for 6 years on the Lake Oswego Schools Foundation, raising money and such. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
So you're a vote yes on the bond coming up.
Oh, yes, I am, which is separate money from the foundation, but we need to support them both. One is facilities, one is the teachers. But yes, I am.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mika Saranke. I am professionally with a bit of an unusual background. I am a licensed architect, landscape architect, and urban designer. I typically deal with sites, so this is a good opportunity to deal with something larger. I have lived and worked in all four corners of the continental US as well as overseas. So it's kind of interesting to pull all the experience from different places and apply here to my home for the last 8 years. My relationship to Foothills is very tenuous. Last year, my son signed up for a rowing summer camp, and he said the camp is I have to go and drop him at Foothills. And I spent 5 minutes thinking, where's Foothills? And then Googling it ultimately. And then when I took the left turn from 43, I am like, I had no idea the Lake Oswego extends on the left side of this road. Every time I turn left, I'm going to Portland, or I turn right, I'm going to Westland, or now Lorac. And I'm like, oh my God, there's like a whole new neighborhood hiding here. And then the urban designer, landscape architect kicked in, and I'm like, we have to pull this neighborhood more into the fabric of Lake Oswego. Maybe, you know, there has to be a gateway sign. And then my son's late, and I'm like, why is there not a coffee shop here? I can so this is an interesting opportunity because I come from like not only as a landscape architect but as a resident impression. So it's a good opportunity, and of course I serve on the DRC, and just with that experience, want to give back to the community that I have come to love in the last 8 years. So here I am.
That's great.
My name is Micah McNerney. It's short for Michaeline. Micah's great.
Okay.
That's easier.
Cool.
I live right in First Edition in downtown. Talk to Chucky Pies and customers all the time. Those are favorites. I have 2 kiddos in LO schools. One's a sophomore, actually at LO, and the other one's at LOJ. I, ever since moving back up to Lake Oswego, have been really interested in the Foothills area, like many other people have spoken to, because it seems like an unexplored opportunity for the city to create something really amazing. Many, many moons ago, I studied sustainable development, and I didn't ever get a degree in urban planning, but I kind of tinkered in it. My degree was in geology. And I currently volunteer with Lake Oswego Sustainability Network. And so I kind of, because of my background, I think of sustainability is encompassing the housing piece and the environmental piece, right? And so I feel like it's really important to have all those conversations as part of this. And I've never served on a committee before, but I'm pretty excited to be involved. So, yeah.
I do have to say that my son is playing soccer for Oregon Premier Football Club, so I am in LO a lot out at Azalea Field for practices and games, and it's been a lot of fun. Great kids on the team, and we're having a lot of fun. So sorry for interjecting.
Yeah,
You're up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kara Orvieto. I've been in Lake Oswego since I think 11 years now, and I'm up in the Mountain Park neighborhood. I moved here for my daughter to attend the kindergarten up the street, and so she's gone through the Lake Oswego public school systems, also a sophomore at Lake Oswego High School. My original background when I moved to Oregon was in, at the time it was called green building, and sustainable buildings, and I was part of the project team for the first LEED Gold certified rehabilitated building in the country. So that was pretty fun, and I'm in my second term on the Sustainability Advisory Board for the city, was also on the Parks 2040 CAC with Jim, and in my early days of starting out on the SAB, was also in some of the project teams and had some input into the LORAC and also the first go round of the wastewater treatment plant. And I also, Foothills has also been a little bit of a mystery to me too. The first time I went there, I was like, where am I going? What is this weird industrial area? And then you come around the corner and there's a beautiful park. So I spent a lot of time at that park, and just love the city, love giving back. I think I'm an active participant. I show up for a lot of things, and I'm really excited to be on this committee. I think we've got a really amazing opportunity to do something with the area in the near term, and also thinking ahead, maybe there are things we could dream up now that could come to fruition, in the future. So much great emerging technology, sustainable technology happening and coming on the forefront. So we'll see what we can do.
All right, I'm Shale Brixey. I am a sophomore at Lake Ridge High School. I have lived in Lake Oswego for the past 6 years, and I live off of South Shore. I first went to Foothills Park about 2 years ago for the concerts in the park, actually. I volunteer there, and I was really surprised to find that there was more to LO than just like first edition over there. Outside of this is the first community board that I've been on, but I am also the president of the National League of Young Men, which is a philanthropic organization. And yeah.
My name is Jeff Goodman. I've been in the Portland area all my life and in Lake Oswego since 1976. Can't believe where the years have gone.
Go Blazers.
Go Blazers. Yeah. I remember that when they built the arena there. And I live in the Holly Orchard neighborhood right off of Cruz Way and Carmen, right above where the Yakima building now is. I served on city council between 2011 to 2018. So was present during those animated discussions with respect to Foothills plan. And there's a number of elements in that existing plan. Not everything, but there's a number of elements in there that I think will benefit us in terms of going forward, because it's done a lot of the groundwork that will save us time there. I've been engaged in the community pretty much continuously since I've lived here. This was a case on the neighborhood chairs committee. Volunteers were asked for and everybody else stepped backwards. But I'm pleased to be here. Also engaged in the Oswego Heritage Council, Clackamas Free Clinic, and involved out at Mary's Woods. Looking forward to helping shape really the next 40-year plan, because that's how long the East End District has been in place, is 40 years.
Which is downtown for folks that might not. It's not typically called the East End.
Looks like somebody else has joined online.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a good point.
Keely and
Sounds like we have, it looks like we have Keely, and I'm not sure if we had a chance to hear from Rachel previously. So, but yeah, Keely, can you provide an introduction for yourself?
Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm not there tonight. I'm helping raise money for a youth organization, so that's why I'm in the suit and tie. Many of you might know me from the recent purchase of the Lakeshore Inn. The wife and I just purchased, and you might see the office I'm renovating on 200 State Street, where I'm moving 8 of my different businesses to. Those businesses are everything from development to architectural to building manufacturing to and a couple different construction companies. Very very honored to be part of this because it's just right down the drive from our properties there, and it's a great opportunity. Just to tell you, I have 162 employees, and so many of them are struggling to find housing right. So that's my real money here, is trying to provide workforce housing for our community and really support the community.
Thanks,
great,
Keely.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for making time. Definitely understand you're busy with other worthwhile endeavors, so appreciate it. And yeah, Rachel, I don't know, are you able to, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. I had to switch to a different computer, but thank you everyone for coming here. I'm Rachel Najak. I'm the vice chair for the Planning Commission in Lake Oswego. I work as a project manager at Hacienda CDC. You might have heard of us doing a little project on Boones Ferry Road, bringing 55 units of affordable housing to the Lake Oswego community. And I also have a background as an education master's of real estate development. So this is an exciting opportunity for me. Usually I'm on the other end of community engagement, but this is great to be a part of the group that is giving the input to make the plan that eventually reaches the hands of developers and community members to build and follow the guidance of the community.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you.
Real quick before we go on to the next, I want to just say that every project we have advisory committees like this, and every one of them they're really important. Like this is like family for projects. This is hopefully safe place. Jason and I are extroverts. We love to talk to people. We love to learn as much as we can. That's like priority, discovery is what we call it. For a long time, until we don't draw anything until we feel like we're ready. And that might take time. It will take time, maybe even the beginning of the year, I'm not sure. But we're visual. We like to show diagrams and perspectives and analysis. We have a lot of fun, hopefully. And we're open, so feel comfortable. Tell us crazy, tell us you love us, whatever it is, we're cool with that. We're going to talk to as many people as we can. Joe, you mentioned it, like engagement's huge. So focus groups, yes. Targeted audiences, yes. As many residents as we can. Schools, youth, like that's our mission. Get as much input as we can and feel collectively, and you'll hear all about it. We're going to be bringing those updates here. Like, we're learning enough. Usually it's no, keep going, keep learning, keep pushing, and do as much as we can. We always say 5% better every time. Engagement. Engagement's always like, at the end, you're like, yeah, we didn't do more, and we're going to try really hard. And so open houses, events, are going to be there. So it'll be fun. I want to say that.
Thanks. And it's a learning curve. And we'll get better as we move through the process. Sort of like building a machine. It gets a little more nimble, and we figure out how to use it a little bit better. And so we're all going to be kind of a part of that Just the image you're seeing here is, for context, the Foothills district, and yes, my God, it's a mystery, isn't it? Like, you're driving by it for decades, and then suddenly you decide to turn in toward the Foundry, thinking, well, where is this going to take me? And wow, boom, you're in the park, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is literally amazing. Our project area there on the right is generally the Foothills district is in the black outline, and there's sort of kind of distinct areas that we're going to be looking at, taking a hard look at, and that area A is where the wastewater treatment facility exists today, where it's going to move over to another location. So it's close to the river now, and it's going to scoot over a little bit closer to the train tracks and nestled under that tall bluff that's along State Street. Area C is kind of our access connection. We need to think about how A, B, C, D all sort of cross through there. How do we get into the district, knowing we have a location down there by E today, but thinking about, are there other opportunities to get into the district along that area called C, and that area B may be a location where we tap into States Avenue and connect into the district. So we're looking at where those points of access are. I think, as we all know, having Foothills be a dead-end district is probably not the best strategy for all of us. And so how we get in both in the north and south are going to be important. Area D is sort of the private development area that the city doesn't have control of, but it's a future area to think about. Will this transition from industrial to a mix of uses that integrate with A and become sort of the platform for new development in the district? And then we have some existing neighbors to the south, so the condominiums are in that sort of white area under D, and they're all living in here, and they're all thinking about what the future means to them, and they're going to be a part of the process too, and folks that we talk to as we move along. Area E is that sort of transition, the front door today to the district, which feels like a back door, but it's a front door. And we have the Whole Foods and the Foothills apartments in that area, and so looking at how that evolves over time and how we move through that space is going to be a part of the work. But largely, as we think about sort of development and change, it's going to be kind of focused on A and D, and then looking at the edges and how we can integrate with those. So that's a little bit of context. And then the next slide is getting into sort of what brought us here today. And I think Joe and most of the people at this table probably know more than I do about, what brought us to the table again. But 2012 was a point in time where some big ideas were established. Bring streetcar from Portland, you have a developer on board who's going to bring in this emerging new neighborhood on the river. Urban renewal was going to be a big sort of funder of infrastructure for that. And so a lot of pieces were kind of coming together until the community said, well, this isn't really our vision for Lake Oswego. And so that sort of put a monkey wrench into all these other pieces coming together. And the wastewater treatment facility has been somewhat of a reboot. So the fact that the city now is invested in improving that infrastructure, which is, cleaning the waste from part of Portland and all of Lake Oswego, that's opening the doors then to look at the land area in a different way. So there's motivation pieces of that. Wastewater are going to move over here. That's going to open up some other land areas. There's been, through your comprehensive plan, really looking at the role of housing in your community. And we've heard a variety of different folks thinking about workforce housing and diversity of housing. This is a large land area close to downtown that has the potential to absorb what we call maybe higher density housing because of the proximity to great access, close to your commercial district. And so clearly housing is really a focus too on this site, and a variety of housing types. So I think affordability is a part of the component as well. So we're going to look at how we integrate housing as a part of this work. How we talk to the community, I think, has been another layer to this work, that how can we be more inclusive in terms of generating ideas around the district, who's included in kind of the decision making, or at least that feedback loop, so we begin to understand and be more proactive in the voices in the community, so we don't end up like 2012 where we land up with this final plan and a lot of people who are really in opposition to it. So a number of forces coming together, I think really good positive forces, and I think it's a good starting point for all of us to have that perspective that there is some imminent change with the wastewater treatment facility, and there's a real focus on creating a mixed-use accessible district in terms of housing and other uses that create what I think still is the focus, which is creating another great new neighborhood in downtown. I mean, I think we are all still looking at it as this next great neighborhood on the river. The park is already just absolutely amazing. In Portland, we don't have access to the river. A little bit up in St. John's, we can kind of get there under the bridge, but you have something really special and unique that is a community asset. And there's all this land between that community asset and the downtown. And this is an opportunity to move through that area and mold it into something that feels like it works for anyone who lives in Lake Oswego, for new people who move into the neighborhood. So what an exciting time. We're super excited to be here with you. Urban renewal will be another piece. The framework plan is going to establish all this work of infrastructure that needs to be built. And the Urban Renewal District will be a tool to then finance and help pay for some of that work. So all the parts and pieces are coming together to reassemble the 2012 plan as an update, something a little bit better, a little bit different. And we're glad you're here. So engagement is a big part of the work as well. You can go to the next slide. And Will kind of alluded to how we see the world, and we see design, we see working through design what we call at the pace of trust. So it's really hard to come in with a ton of ideas and a bunch of change and just, you know, fire hose it onto people in the community. This is an iterative process, and it's a bit of an exploration, and we know that as we uncover challenges and opportunities with you, not telling you what they are, we're going to begin to develop design concepts based around those challenges and opportunities. And we like working at that pace so that we kind of understand why we might be making decisions in one direction or another. Or we're looking at alternatives that maybe address these challenges or opportunities in a way where everyone understands how we got there. So Will also talked about voices, how we reach out and talk to a variety of different groups. That's an evolving effort. You're a great springboard. You act as a sort of litmus test for us to grab multiple perspectives and be in the room really getting firsthand knowledge about what we're learning, what we're seeing, what we're thinking, and be able to have that exchange with you is huge. So you're really in a special place in terms of your role in the community and the seat you have at the table. The Planning Commission and the City Council are going to make ultimate decisions. We're all here sort of making recommendations. We're trying to formulate good ideas, but the ultimate decision makers will be in the hands of the city. But these are the voices that are important, and it starts at the high level as we talk to the community in points of contact, or larger community meetings where we take some complex ideas that we try to present them in a way that are understandable. So we're going to have those touch points as well. And the other is, how do we reach out to groups that aren't typically at the table or part of these conversations? And some of that is talking to folks in the community that have access to networks that typically aren't connected, and talking to them first, and then seeing, you know, where are the places that we can go to, or how can we work with these variety of different groups. So we're in the process of doing that. Some of the low-hanging fruit, like developers, well, that's super easy. Like Oswego, every developer wants to talk about what's happening at Foothills, but there's a whole network of folks that we're still learning how to tap into, but we'll keep you abreast of how well we're doing and the types of engagement we're doing on that front. We always want to be transparent about what we're doing, so every meeting we have, we're going to document it. We'll be able to share back with you all what we hear from those meetings. We have a website that is going to be a place to share information, and we're also creating kind of a story mapping. We're using GIS software to create a parallel sort of website, which will give more in-depth information about missions around Foothills. We'll be able to summarize the engagement, so there's a place for people to go who want to dig in a little bit more than just the city's website, but that will be a place to gather information. The point being, as we do work, we're going to document it. We want to get it out so that it's transparent to everyone who has access to that information. So let's go to the next slide. Clear communication. We're sort of creating channels for information. So the website becomes one. What's the message about the project? We've been starting to develop sort of the simple one-pager. This is why we're here. Timeline. Understand the project is 2 years long. And that information is going on the website as well as this additional story map that I'm talking about. We're still building that. But we will have communication through that website, as well as using newsletters and other outreach methods. We've been talking to Madison, who leads communications for the city of Lake Oswego, and we're trying to tap into those periods of time when information typically goes out to the community, and we're building information about this project, and we'll be shooting it out through those channels. We'll get better and better in terms of how outreach works and the different channels we use. You all are conduits as well, but so we're evolving that, letting you know that we are working through the communication channels as best we can, and we'll get better at it as we move through the process. Progress updates are important, so the website is a great place for that, and other online mechanisms. You all are ambassadors, as is anyone who engages this project, you know, through a public meeting or whatever, but you all are kind of special and unique because you have networks that are behind you, people who respect you and who you are connected to. And we do encourage you to be a conduit to those folks and sharing the information that you're learning here. When there's opportunities to bring your networks into a larger meeting, for instance, those are really important. Your voice at community events where you can be a part of those, we encourage you to do that, and we look to you as partners with us when we're out in the community. And so it's really helpful to have a team this big. I think it makes me excited, it makes me feel good to go out there having you all here. In the end, the more you know and the more you can share about the process, I think that's going to give accountability to the work that we're doing. You know, we can say so much, but it's like what people hear from you, I think, is also extremely valuable. So we appreciate you sharing that, good and bad. You don't have to be, you know, it could be like, yeah, it was a horrible meeting, or a mess. Two of the concepts are off the table, and that's great. I'm glad that we encourage you to have those conversations with each other and with others outside the room. So thank you for that. We have multiple tools for outreach. I mentioned the website, social media, so there's channels that the city has available. We're going to plug into those. And as we get better, we'll try and figure out other outreach methods to get the word out. But we'll start with sort of the known locations. Our engagement will use a variety of different tools. We mentioned DHM. They do research. They're going to actually kind of canvass the community and get sort of a representative sampling of folks. Because one of the first things we want to know is where does Foothills fit in the mindset of a local person from Lake Oswego, from a variety of different perspectives, because it's been a while since 2012, and so it's good to know sort of where people's heads are now. And then as we begin to talk about what that change might be, we'll have another point of contact with that group to get a sense of what they're thinking, because it's nice to generally kind of get a sense of where the community is sitting on a project like this. We're going to have open community events, like open house style events, as a part of our engagement. We're going to have a lot of sort of one-on-one conversations. Some of that's happening with developers. Some of those will be meetings with the school district and other interested parties at a smaller scale. We can tap into sort of knowledge bases and specific topics and issues that resonate in the community. So we have a lot of different ways that we're going to be able to engage. We'll be updating you all on those processes that we're going through, meetings that we are holding, and what we learn from different engagements throughout the process. Decision making, I talked a bit about that. I mean, the community is going to provide feedback. That's information we learn, like what are community perspectives about a variety of different issues or design concepts. We have you as people at the table who have a little bit more information, who can continue to help evolve the designs and the decision making around the district itself. And you all be sort of the information that comes out of here, we'll be presenting back to the Planning Commission and the decision makers as recommendations, and what we're hearing from this group in terms of guidance on design and recommendations. As I mentioned, we're all sort of just recommending to the ultimate decision makers, which are City Council, but we are an important part of that. And then, of course, Laura is another, which is the Urban Renewal District, will be weighing in terms of financing and building out. A lot of hand waving. I'll move on to the next slide. We also, I didn't mention a technical advisory committee being appointed as well. There's a number of issues clearly around being close to the river, about the slopes, Tryon Creek, traffic. So Oregon Department of Transportation and others will be a part of that. We'll meet with them as we have sort of specific topics that we need to engage. But we also are forming a group that we can meet with periodically so we can update larger TAC across a multiple set of issues that we're trying to uncover. So the project is really going to hit sort of 7 key milestones. Really, the first was just in figuring out what our engagement plan is. But from a design perspective and the framework plan around Foothills, we're going to be starting with some opportunities and constraints. So we're learning about existing conditions and things that are impacting what future development might look like. We'll roll into concept alternatives after that. So we'll look at a range of different ways in terms of access out of the district, types of development we might consider in redevelopment areas, connecting to the park, maybe extending some of the park area, connections of Tryon Creek, for instance. Then those concepts will be winnowed down to kind of a preferred concept or refinements, and those will be the foundation for the ultimate framework plan, which will look at land use, transportation, the zoning implications, how do we create the right type of regulation in terms of land use around that. So that's what the framework plan will be built on, that schematic refinement. We'll do a draft plan and then a final plan that will get adopted through the Planning Commission, or recommendation through the Planning Commission and adopted by City Council. Once we have that final plan, then we'll move into what's called post-plan amendments, developing code, zoning code around the plan, and as well as forming the urban renewal district. So the framework plan will guide that to how big the urban renewal district will be, and the projects of the urban renewal district will likely be funding. So they'll know that from the framework plan. Okay. Process here. Do you want to hit this one, Will, or do you want me to stay on it here?
Before, yeah.
Okay. I mean, this is kind of a graphic representation of at least 4 of the phases getting through the framework plan. That number 1, that's sort of the engagement line. The middle row is the months of where we'll be doing work, whether it's inventory or establishing initial concepts and winnowing those down, getting to a draft plan. You'll see the light gray is sort of work products that we'll be creating throughout. But the top line with the numbers is sort of our engagement and where we are in terms of understanding the issues. We're now in that number 1 phase where we're targeting focus groups and reaching out to people in the community and those with diverse interests to understand what we need to think about. We'll learn from our opportunities and challenges, which is the existing conditions information, what we learned from initial targeted interviews, really sort of set the stage for what the design concepts would be, what we're looking to address from a challenges perspective, and where we see opportunities to create land use and transportation access into these alternatives that are section 3 there. So you'll see that coming into next spring and summer is when we'll be landing on concepts and then wrapping up at least the draft framework plan at the end of the year into 2027. So we're at the tail end of 2025 now at the inventory and analysis, and we'll move in the first of the year with our opportunities and challenges, and then on to concepts and framework plan by the end of 2027. Sorry for that whirlwind. This is a little bit of information. I've been talking a bit about what is opportunities and constraints. What does that mean? This is a chance for us to reconnect with the community since the 2012 plan. So that initial engagement allows us to do that. We can understand what people value, what they think are the opportunities and challenges. It allows us then to think hard about those things, think about goals and objectives. From what we learn about what the opportunities and challenges are, it's important that we then sort of establish guiding principles before we even put pen to paper in terms of design. So values really help inform that, whether it's housing, whether it's sustainability. There's multiple factors that go into guiding principles and how we think about putting the physical design together. There's what we call drivers of design and influences. And so that's a lot of that we learn in the opportunities and constraints portion of the work. So the next slide concept levels then allow us to explore a range of alternatives. What is the best way to come into the district? Do we create a street network that feels more like an extension of A, B, C, and D, to the river, or is it something different? How important are those connections along the waterfront and Tryon Creek and back into the community, and thinking about these systems not only of just physical development of people and commercial development, the things that we think about, but how do we reconnect in a real way? I think this idea of tree canopy in the district today is so prevalent. And you look at First Edition, Will and I were walking through First Edition, and it's like these giant cedar trees just growing right out of people's front yards. And you really get a sense of like, that is Lake Oswego. I mean, it's really amazing. And I think we consistently keep thinking of that continuing in this new neighborhood, that it takes on a lot of those characteristics, and obviously as it should, because as you see Tryon and that tree canopy just weaving its way down into the district, the amount of trees that are already down here is pretty phenomenal. And I think just extending that vocabulary is going to be a no-brainer, something we're excited to explore. So go ahead, John.
A comment about the trees, which I love, and have planted several in my own place, but in First Edition with all the trees is great. When you look back at pictures of First Edition 100 years ago, it was denuded of trees. And so that's, I think, helpful for the long-term perspective that you've referenced that we need to be looking at.
Yeah, thanks. We can go to the next slide. Schematic design, this is, I mentioned this before, but we'll be refining alternatives and really giving you, we're extremely visual, as Will stated. And one of the things we're doing right now is we're building a 3D model of Foothills, because the topography is just crazy. It's crazy. And so to see how buildings and streets fit in there, if we don't use this 3D technology, none of us will be able to figure it out. We'll be looking at a plan and we won't have a clue. So we're focused on building that model and then giving you sort of realistic, like, samples and views of what streets and development are going to look like. So I think this is we're at a great time in terms of technology and AI and the tools that we can use to do things quickly. Another thing Will and I are going to do is we're going to fly a drone around the project area and look at all sort of the points of access up at Terwilliger and down by the Foundry entry, and go down to the water and lift up and work our way toward downtown and vice versa. So we're getting sort of the approach from a variety of different perspectives, and I think it will help us to understand some of the topography changes. We wanted to do a site tour with everyone because you kind of really need to walk all the nooks and crannies, but we may not because of weather and daylight and schedule. So we're going to try and build the next best thing as a part of this to help engage folks. But the point being, we're going to use a variety of different tools to help articulate what ultimate build out is going to be for the district. Next slide. Draft framework plan will be assembling all the pieces of land use and circulation and infrastructure that's necessary to build this, and that reflects what we learned from the community, and hopefully the Urban Renewal District will be able to pull together some funding to help build it. Next slide.
One more thing real quick before, didn't mention this, but we typically like to do a demonstration of the project. Every project that we do, we usually test something out, whether it's or it could be related to transportation. It's tactical, like usually we just paint stuff. We paint something. We've done several examples of demonstrating how or what it could look like, whether it's scale or a look and feel. I'm not sure what that is here. Usually we find that during our work, but that is something that's very interesting for all of us to think through. Like, what is it? It's not only just looking at like what could be, it's like a snippet, but also it creates a lot of great conversation. People can come here and be like, I want to enjoy this practical artistic thing, whatever it is. But people start asking questions like, hey, this is great. What's happening here? Because every time we do a demonstration, even though we've done so much outreach, there's always people who are like, what's going on? What is this? So it's great. Now I can talk to you about that's coming and what we're testing out. So that's going to be brewing, and we'll be talking through that. Maybe we'll present a few of our ideas, our samples of examples that we've done. It's pretty cool. So also things that we bring, sometimes it shocks people. I want to just tell people that we use this forum to test out ideas. Don't think it's done. Like, wait, what is that? This is where we test things out. This is where we want to have a little bit of shock or fear, a little bit. Like, it's a good thing. We want to do that here before we go out and do it in the public. So, for example, this is just an idea that I heard, and I'm not going to say who, but we need a gondola that goes from downtown to Foothills. Okay, we may see that in a plan, just to vet it through in this safe space.
Guilty.
Water taxi.
Right, or water taxi. That is viable. Yeah. So anyway, those are the kinds of things that we want to have fun with before we make them public. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks, Will. Thanks, Jason. Definitely, we'll be talking a little bit more about the nuts and bolts, I guess, of how we're going to sort of envision this process and work through the task at hand, which is a big one. So, we talked a little bit more high level about what to expect schedule-wise moving forward and kind of the big chunks of the major project tasks and how we're proposing to move through those at a higher level. But, I think we can see in a little bit more fine-grained detail what it looks like on a project-wide basis. So you can see that this plan, the work plan that you're looking at on the screen right now, extends beyond 2026 and goes into 2027, or at least, I think it goes into a little bit of 2027 at least.
I think a lot of it.
Yeah.
The adoption part is not really.
Yeah, I guess we're not seeing that yet.
It's
Just framework.
design.
Thank you. So anyway, we're kind of really early on in the process, and as I just alluded to, there's a lot more, and this is really just talking about the development of the plan itself. This doesn't include the post-plan adoption of code and other types of amendments that would implement the plan in a more realistic sense. So this is really just getting us to that sort of plan adoption at City Council. So I just want to mention, I guess, a little bit of the community engagement piece that we're envisioning. A lot of it was touched on by Jason as he talked about kind of the goals and objectives and what the sort of general techniques that we expect to be using will be. But I just want to point out, we have drafted this all up in a public engagement plan, a draft plan. So it's all here for you to take a look at, and please, don't hesitate to let us know if you have any comments or sort of ideas that you want to introduce into the project. I think we have a lot covered. So I think you'll notice that as you work through this, but ultimately, that is kind of one objective that we want to cover today, is to talk to you about the draft public engagement plan here. So, more feedback is always helpful on that. So that's going to be a continually evolving document, but it's one of the first kind of projects, really the deliverables that we're talking about for this work. So as you can see, we've already obviously formed the Community Advisory Committee. We're all here today. We formally kind of went to council and had y'all appointed back in early September. So appreciate you working in sort of through the scheduling and making this all kind of work out. I'm glad we found a time. As was mentioned as well, we are looking at a technical advisory committee in addition to just the community advisory committee. So that's something that was just formed last week at the council meeting on the 7th, last Tuesday. So we'll be getting going with the technical advisory committee fairly soon as well. You can see that the sort of public involvement and engagements header here. You can see that we intend to have community advisory committee meetings and technical advisory committee meetings kind of sprinkled throughout the process. We envision fewer community advisory committee meetings than technical advisory committee meetings, but you can see generally, that they're supposed to correspond with the major deliverables. We want to sort of take things to the group before we kind of go out on a larger roadshow, if you will, to talk a little bit about what we're developing and make sure that we get your input and that that's all sort of taken into consideration in all the ways that we've talked about before we move forward. So you can see, and we'll talk a little bit more about when we expect to meet next, hoping to find something in November, but we will have a more detailed discussion on that in a little bit. Of course, we also are going to go to City Council directly to talk about what we're doing along the way. So we'll have sort of separate occasions to do that and talk to them at what we call study sessions. And ultimately, this will be a plan that will be adopted by City Council. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation when it comes to the code amendment piece. We are going to, of course, kind of be updating them and apprising them of our work, but ultimately this is just a City Council approval. So that's kind of where we're going to steer the ship towards the end. So you can see that sort of final adopt bullet here is ultimately when the plan will be adopted, targeting January of 2027. So that's kind of, you know, a year and a half, a little bit over a year from now, where we expect to come to some type of formal recommendation and move it through the process. We also will be going to the Planning Commission, as I said, you know, to kind of talk about some of those big deliverables along the way, to get their recommendations, again, even though it's not formally going to the Planning Commission. When it comes to participation and targeted outreach, we're also thinking about a lot of different ways, again, as Jason was discussing, of going out and meeting the community and doing some more kind of deliberate sort of in-person outreach at events that are already taking place in the community and kind of trying to capitalize on that. So we're hoping to get a little chunk of that in before the winter really fully sets in. So we're hoping to get out and talk a little about kind of where we're at preliminarily in the next couple of months through what we're calling, you know, this kind of targeted outreach period. But ultimately, we hope to have that story map and kind of more to discuss, I guess, over the winter when folks might not be available to talk in person. We'll have a little bit of an option to engage virtually as well. So really having a lot of options for folks to weigh in and just thinking about how we're going to deploy that throughout the seasons that we're going to be facing in the next year and a half or two. Other sort of pieces here you can see just kind of woven in here. There's focus groups and public surveys. So we're already talking a bit, as was mentioned, with developers, but we'll be ultimately talking with property owners, other really important stakeholders that we've been mapping out for the last couple of months. Also, we intend to hold larger community sort of open house type events. So you can see that we're planning one of those for roughly early, or I guess sort of January, February of next year, so winter roughly, and then kind of moving forward is some sort of early summer and early fall, kind of what we're hoping to target at least for those events. So those will be larger ones where, you know, it'll be a lot, you know, more populated even than our community advisory committee meeting with all of us kind of packed in here. It'll be a much larger group, a lot more interactive, I think, for a large group of people to provide their input. So thinking about how to weave that through the process as well. And you can see, you know, just as was kind of touched upon, the general rhythm here. We hope to have the inventory and analysis piece taken care of, you know, by the end of the year, more or less, and talk about it a little bit publicly as well, but to have that be really the current phase that we're going to be completing within the next few months. We'll then, you know, start developing some options, thinking about the vision and sort of larger goals and objectives for the district, which is an ongoing conversation, really. It's never something that you just kind of can get through with and move forward. It's something that we'll have to sort of continually cycle back and think about. But that is something that we intend to, you know, begin that conversation in the coming months. But, you know, that will be the next phase, working through, you know, early winter and through the spring, and really throughout the summer, just thinking about the different both schematic and concept level alternatives that we'll be producing, and really winnowing them down to a more digestible single recommendation, sort of a plan of action that we want to implement here in Foothills. Of course, those are the option pieces, and we'll get to the draft and final framework plan and have the hearing early in 2027. So just with that, I guess I'll transition to talk a little bit more about the committee itself.
A question on
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
It might be helpful for all of us if we're included to be able to watch, not participate in, watch the technical advisory committee meetings. That way it will get us up to speed when we have our meeting. And I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that we should be participants in that meeting, but have the opportunity subject to our time availability, to watch the TAC meeting and their discussions.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think, that should be feasible. I think we should be able to record all those meetings, but there might be other ways that we can sort of digest that information and let you know what has happened if you don't want to watch the full video, of course, but I think that is also an option. We have multiple options, I guess. So.
Video and a digest would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good sort of note that will be another, I think kind of maybe like a standing item at our community advisory committee meetings, just kind of to talk about the progress of the TAC and what's been discussed, and then remind folks they can watch the video if they have that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Before I move on, any other sort of thoughts on that process or little mechanisms that we can use moving forward to make sure we're getting as much information as we can? There's a lot going on.
Eric, thanks. Related to that, when I was looking at the schedule, I just was hoping that our, the way you've got our conversations phased, visioning and all of that, can be really informed by the technical advisory committee process. And just, it must be a challenge to keep those in sync. Like, what are they talking about? And then what are we going to talk about? And what are they talking about? And how does that influence what we talk about? And, right. So, because immediately just looking at the maps, for example, the railroad and Highway 43 are huge barriers. And is there any softening? Is there any, and if there isn't, let's just move on, and not, go through a visioning process that includes building bridges over or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just as much as possible, that technical component informing our design, our path, our visioning process.
That's certainly the thought of how we intend to use the technical advisory committee. I think we want to utilize them just, as you might imagine, for those technical conversations, whether they be focused on the railroad or access or traffic or parks or natural systems. I think we want to be able, again, to not just sort of tell you what the technical advisory committee is discussing, but to digest that and kind of think about how that will inform our conversations at the CAC. So we're not expecting folks here to be experts on all of those things necessarily, but we're hoping that you can provide that kind of higher level perspective and that we can summarize that for you in a reasonable manner without providing 100-page documents and things of that nature.
It might work also in reverse. We might have an idea that we love. We're going to ask the technical people, is this feasible?
Yeah.
If they're like, I don't know, never done that, we're going to push a little bit until maybe it does happen or maybe it doesn't. But
right. Yeah.
Working back and forth would be good thing.
Yeah, definitely want the two committees to be informed by one another and not duplicative. So I think that's going to be our challenges we structure things moving forward. Melissa.
Thanks, Eric. I just wanted to understand, just very broad stroke, like what happens after 2027? Like, will this go up for a bond measure? And then when might it be built? Or
I'm hoping it doesn't require a bond measure, but you never know where the process will take us. The money, so that we've envisioned, at least, this would be to the fullest extent possible finalized, or things would be financed through the development of an urban renewal plan in this area that utilizes tax increment financing. That would then be able to be utilized for investments throughout the district. That's pretty similar to the process from 2011, 2012 that was developed, and the idea of kind of what infrastructure investments we should prioritize will be something that will need to be discussed at this committee, of course, and part of the plan. But the urban renewal plan will have very concrete ways to finance and sort of think about the sequence and sort of how those projects will work on the ground. So after 2027, January 2027, when we envision this will be adopted, we will basically start a concurrent process of developing that urban renewal plan, sort of to match what we have determined, that we want to see in the area based on the framework plan. And we'll also be embarking on those code amendments and trying to get sort of the more specific post-plan amendments, as we've been referring to them, adopted to ensure that the zoning, the land use, other elements of the code are all in place to facilitate development. In terms of when we can actually expect to see development on the ground, with the wastewater treatment plant project will almost certainly be the first. So I think we can bet on that, but otherwise it is a little early to say. I think, some of the decisions that we make as this committee in terms of our recommendations could impact, how we want to see that develop and how quickly or not we want to see that happen. So I think we'll have to listen to some of the analysis about the market and kind of where things are at and what we can expect moving forward. But I think the parcel that the city will control, also the sort of former wastewater treatment facility site, it's going to take a while, right? It's got a wastewater treatment facility on it right now. That's a pretty functional, large facility, and so that will have to be decommissioned and taken offline and demolished, and it's not easy, and it will be, that there will be some remediation necessary on that site before we can kind of really sort of see things develop. So that will probably take a little bit more time potentially than some of the other elements of the district.
Okay, and just one follow-up. So when the project went down before, was that because the city council didn't approve it, or was there some kind of city vote for
I can speak to that because I was there. There were two separate plans that were developed concurrently, the Foothills plan and the urban renewal financing plan that went with it. The Foothills plan was approved on a 4-3 vote.
By the city council? By
the city council.
Okay.
The urban renewal district plan was approved, and then due to a change in the composition of the council, the urban renewal plan got overturned also on a 4-3 vote. The reason I know that so well is because I was the fourth vote in both cases. The major point of contention was the street. The rest of the plan, much of the rest of the plan, there was not the opposition to it. It was the streetcar that caused the Foothills plan to go down, the urban renewal plan to go down, and with no money, no plan.
And technically, we have sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, to me, when we were talking about the communication at the beginning and the stakeholder reach out and being familiar with that time and how the community responded, I think the communication here is so important that people recognize this is not relaunching the streetcar idea. Even whatever ideas, if we have a moment of grand thinking of all things that are possible, I love a brainstorming moment like that, but I do remember very clearly, and I was thinking about that right here at the very beginning, the community thinking that that's what this is. And there are still a lot of people here who really participated against that project. And so I think
we will need to get out front.
That's not what this is. It's, I just really feel that that's kind of critical here at the very beginning, because you'd hate to have a group form to immediately be putting the kibosh on something that it isn't even on the table. But those rumors get going, and that's something to be really cognizant of.
Thanks for saying that.
Appreciate that.
Well, we want our work to, I think we're all really excited. I mean, this is a really interesting opportunity and one of the last here in LO, and for this type of project, and I just would hate to see that.
I mean, I was one of the leaders on opposition to the streetcar, so full disclosure. But I am fully on board with this.
I think we're in a different, position in a lot of ways, given that this is being initiated by the city with the full support of City Council from the outset. The last plan was something put together by property owners in the area that were interested in developing, and in some ways, maybe that would have resulted in, quicker development once the plan was adopted. But I think we have an opportunity to step back and think about what our community values are and how those should be incorporated into the plan here, and to do this more deliberately this time.
Yeah, can you all clarify the new water treatment facility is on track, funded entirely separately, doesn't need this process, it's going with or without Foothills planning conversation?
It is, yeah. I think, it is, I don't know if I could say fully funded, but well funded, if not fully funded. It's very close. I think the timing of the project, it'll probably break ground before we're completely done adopting things. So there's a bit of a challenge trying to coordinate and make sure that we're not precluding anything for future development for the planning that we're doing with the wastewater treatment plant project. So there is that need for coordination. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that even if this project, even if we did not move forward with this plan update, there would still be a wastewater treatment plant project.
Because one of the other underlying currents I imagined was, oh, they're forming an urban renewal district to fund the water treatment facility.
That is not the case. Yeah, not true for the,
They've got a checkbook.
Yeah, they
How much
for a grant, apparently, so.
Yeah, clarity and transparency on
absolutely
all of that, I think is important as well.
And urban renewal districts, if there's government-owned property inside the urban renewal district, government-owned property doesn't pay property taxes. So even if the wastewater treatment plant, when the wastewater treatment plant's included in the urban renewal district, it doesn't matter because there's no revenue that it generates for property taxes.
We've seen the plan and it's way better, like technology-wise. Smaller, seems like they don't, like they figure out the odor.
Yeah.
So that's, but it is there, it's like there. So we're working with them on not really moving anything, but tweaking it, making sure that they know kind of what's coming. They're responding to existing conditions, but we're enlightening them on it may not be there. So let's have a little bit of conversation. They're open to that, so it's great.
Yeah.
And that's the city of Lake Oswego is leading that development and that process, and so strong integration here. That's why you're here.
That's right. And yeah, Stefan is typically a strong part of the project team, so he's been involved in nearly every meeting that we've had as a project team. So that is in many ways kind of the impetus for the work that we're doing here, but we're not depending on urban renewal to fund it by any means.
So what it did is it opened the opportunity to have this discussion, and that's what I just want to be clear about. There's no other motives. Having the plant funded and underway, we see that as this was presented. I just, again, for clarity and transparency, open the opportunity to revisit planning.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it opens up opportunities with that new potential parcel at the existing plant. So that's a big sort of difference in the access that was envisioned previously is sort of cut off by this new location. So that's a new challenge as well. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, I just wanted to do a little time check.
Yeah, time check's good.
Good. Oh wow. Okay.
So I just wanted to.
Okay. Yes, we're going along. So anyway, I appreciate the additional conversation. I really, this is always great. So I appreciate the time. We do have housekeeping business to do today, so I will do this as quickly as possible. Of course, I want to respect time, so please let us know if you need to take off. We certainly understand that. I can do my best to sort of keep you updated, but I think this will be important. We're hoping to secure a chair and vice chair for the committee at some point tonight, as well as formally adopt bylaws. So I really just wanted to kind of go through what we've included in this charge statement, rules, and bylaws document to just really quickly, at least, I know you've had the chance to review this already, but just talk about kind of what's in there and not just kind of expect that you've already digested everything before you go on to adopt it. So I think we've talked about kind of the purpose of the project, but in particular the Community Advisory Committee. We do want you to represent sort of different areas of the community and to not only kind of provide input to the committee, but also to, kind of go out and talk to folks, in your respective networks about the work that we're doing. We're looking for your input on work products and different issues that pop up along the way. Of course, these will be recommendations that are made to different bodies such as the Planning Commission, City Council, and the Lake Oswego Redevelopment Agency. And also, of course, and I appreciate the sort of thought to how we're going to interact with the TAC and how sort of outputs and inputs will inform one another for these two committees. So really that's going to be another really big part of the CAC is leveraging the information from the TAC and making informed decisions. So yeah, I think, again, this is all kind of outlined. We talked a lot about this, but, don't want to go into too much detail, but the responsibilities include informing all the different sort of components and sort of deliverables that we expect to develop throughout this process. In terms of participation, we expect there will be as many as 10 meetings through the end of 27. We would like them to be 90 minutes, but that's being a little bit of a challenge today. So again, appreciate your patience. They could go as long as 2 hours. Again, expect you to review materials in advance, come prepared to discuss them. I think there's some sort of ground rules that we've included in this packet that I don't think we'll have any problem abiding by, but just to sort of state the obvious, we expect you to engage respectfully and really try to work towards a consensus. So we have some sort of backstops for that, which is very similar to some other committees that we've led as a city. But really our first mission is when we make recommendations, just to reach a place where we're all comfortable with that recommendation. That's the ultimate sort of desire. It's not always possible, of course. So in the case where we're not able to reach that consensus, where there is no sort of person that doesn't agree, if there is a disagreement, then we look at a 2/3 vote threshold to make a quote unquote recommendation. We expect you to attend the public events and hearings to support the engagement piece of this and work with us through adoption, and again, share information with your networks more broadly. We talked a lot about the makeup of the committee, but this is just a really quick overview of who all we have included here. So really a good set of sort of different knowledge bases and people coming from different sort of both professional and just background types of perspectives. So I think we're in a good position. We have a great group here. In terms of vacancies, we do have some relatively strict rules, but in the event that member can't serve out the term, no alternate will be chosen unless we go to council and get that direction. And with any 2 unexcused consecutive absences, you would be automatically removed from the committee. So that's just something to be mindful of. We really want people to be here and engaged, and obviously it's a challenge to sometimes find a time that works for everybody. So it's we want to be reasonable with those expectations, but again, this is kind of a baseline committee task force kind of expectation here at the city. So again, we strive for consensus. If there's a controversial issue, we'll try to document a minority position. And again, if we do not reach a consensus, we look for 2/3 at least support from the group for a recommendation. These are staff responsibilities. I have a lot to do. I will. We have some more general, I guess, rules. So, so I want to facilitate this being a transparent and inclusive process. It's extremely important for, I think, this project as a whole, but particularly for the Community Advisory Committee. Obviously want to ensure that all the information that you're getting is relevant and factual, and that you get it in a relatively reasonable, timely manner, and that it's not too technical to understand, to make it more digestible for you all. So I think this is probably the part where I can focus less on, but I will answer any questions you may have about my own responsibilities, but hopefully we adopt them. In terms of public records, we do want to make sure that all of our meetings are recorded so that members of the public can view these meetings either while they're happening or at a later time. We had initially said either Zoom or in person with an option for remote attendance, but I think we're wanting to move forward just in person with an option for remote attendance as opposed to just Zoom. So that might be a potential amendment. We need to put that out there. All meetings will be subject to the requirements of all the Oregon Public Meetings Law, and again, will be recorded and posted to the public website on our YouTube. So that brings us to our first task as a committee, I suppose, and I think really this is where we look for potential volunteers for a vice chair and a chair for the committee. So as part of the sort of role of any task force or ad hoc advisory committee, we expect to elect a vice chair and a chair. Chair is generally expected to set the agenda with us. We're not expecting you to do that on your own, of course, but more like review the agenda, preside at all meetings. Vice chair would preside if the chair was not there. maintain communication with city staff and our council liaison, Mayor Buck, call special meetings when necessary, and be responsible for the attendance of all members.
I'd like to nominate Randy as chair and Lisa as vice chair.
Wow.
Very efficient.
Yeah. Randy is a wonderful chair. He has chaired other committees that I've worked on, and
Just trying to get us off that time.
I can't imagine a better. I mean, not to say that you all would make wonderful chairs, but I have a good track record with this guy.
I appreciate it.
I hope there's a second.
Do you accept the nomination?
Was
Yeah.
there anybody else who was interested in any of these roles?
Yeah, please don't be shy. I mean, are you? Would
I mean,
you
that's
accept the
fine,
vice
yeah,
chair
I don't,
nomination?
I mean, I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Good. Folks online as well, do they want to,
Yeah.
anyone interested in jumping into the mix here, or?
Yeah, Monica, Rachel, Keely, any thoughts on chair and vice chair?
No,
Monica's
I don't have any feedback for it. I believe as a non-voting member that I can't be a chair or a vice chair, but I could be wrong about that.
I think that's right. I think that's right. Yeah, I think you and Mayor Buck are the two non-voting technically members, so you can't be the chairs yourself.
Immunity.
So if that was a motion, I'll second.
Thank you.
All right. Does that mean we vote?
All in favor?
Are we giving speeches? Or?
Yeah. Do you have a stump speech, Randy?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you.
All right.
I'll give you a more full introduction if you'd like.
I hear you're just working part-time now.
Yeah.
Extra time for this.
Thank you both.
Yeah. Now,
Agreeing
Mr.
to
Chair, I'll
that.
propose an amendment to the bylaws on page 2 of the bylaws document, under member responsibility, that under point number 1, participating in meetings, that the following 4 words be removed, either by Zoom or.
All right.
It means that all of our meetings will be a hybrid meeting, in person with Zoom capability. No strict, where I want to get at is there are no Zoom only meetings.
So it'll say held in person with a remote attendance option, et
Yes.
cetera.
We'll be so much more effective in person when we can all.
That's true, but I do like the remote option if people are traveling.
Of course.
That way they don't miss the meeting.
Hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially considering it's a 2-year commitment here.
Yeah, we're glad you want to come to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do too.
Absolutely. Appreciate your amendments. Any, I guess it's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very
So
good.
it's a move to approve the bylaws as amended, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Any
and-
discussion?
Yeah, any discussion? I think that means we're comfortable with it, but let's.
Oh, there's our consensus point.
Yeah, you're the chair, so.
Our
yeah,
first
you-
consensus.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion on that amendment? If not, let's vote. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Very good.
Very
The
efficient.
amendment passes. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
2 for 2.
Wow. All right, any input, Rachel or Monica? Sorry, we didn't necessarily hear
I'm
a
sorry.
yes or no from you on these motions.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I
Rachel's not voting, I guess. yeah.
non-voting, so.
Right.
Yeah,
Monica?
I'm just here to support.
Yes, I agree with both of these. I do apologize. I do have to leave now.
Well,
Appreciate
thank you
your
for
time.
participating.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're excited to have you. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'll hopefully be in person at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Great, yeah, thanks, Monica. I think we lost Keely. He has other events going on, it sounds like, but yeah, I think we have what we need for the establishment of our committee here. I think that there are a few more slides, but I really just wanted to kind of talk about what to expect next. and really there is one other really important thing that we need to talk with you about, and that's just kind of generally when folks could be available on a sort of more general basis, like thinking about after typical work hours probably for these meetings. So obviously we met between 6 and 7:30 plus today. But does that time generally seem okay to folks? Like, is that an achievable, like 6 is an okay sort of time during the week?
On Monday and Tuesday. It
On
is.
Monday and Tuesday. Okay. Okay.
And then those
Letting
are-
us,
Well, I wanted to ask, yeah, if there were, what day people prefer.
That's the harder part.
Well, Tuesdays are tricky because those are council days, so, I think Monday would be, those planning commission days, but we could, time it, if they only meet,
Yeah.
they each meet twice a month, but on different days, so.
Yeah, Monday is probably more
I did,
workable.
I know Keely's gone, but he mentioned earlier, he has a standing Monday, every Monday. And, but both Keely and Ken Sandblast can't be here, so Tuesday,
Tuesdays are good.
with advance notice.
the earlier you can let us know the day,
Absolutely,
it
yeah.
will help.
Well, I think we're hoping to just like schedule all of them, hopefully,
On a
from here on
certain
out.
day.
Yeah.
Does
Right,
anyone
so-
have a no Tuesday, like that they cannot meet on Tuesday? I
Mayor
would
Buck has some
strongly
responsibilities
vote-
every
well,
other Tuesday.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, Mayor Buck. Or maybe you could alternate with Monday, I don't know.
No, I think we can just do the off Tuesdays. That seems like.
Are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah, because it's once a month, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Monday's a DRC.
Right. Yeah.
And SAB as well.
Yeah. So if we didn't meet on the planning commission days, then we'd have to meet on the DRC days. So.
Well, and since Ken was a Tuesday also, and,
Yeah, I think
I mean, are there,
Monday seems less likely at this point. But Jeff.
Since we've got the data established, just to go back a point you made earlier on the financing question, did I hear you correctly that we're gonna do the Foothills plan and then the urban renewal plan after that?
That's right.
Well, permit me to suggest that doing them both concurrently will accelerate the process, because even after it's gonna take us 2 years to do this. If we wait 2 years to adopt the urban renewal plan, it'll be another 4 or 5 years before there's sufficient cash flow out of that plan to back debt to do the infrastructure. So I think doing them concurrently will help.
Yeah, I think the idea is to at least get to a point where we feel comfortable with the recommendations here before we move forward, and to do it at least concurrently with the adoption of post-plan amendments, so during 2027 for the most part. That was kind of what at least we had scope with the Metro grant, so.
So does that mean, the goal would be then in 27 to adopt the Foothills plan and the urban renewal plan financing at the same time?
That is not our current schedule.
Can
So
we have that a topic of discussion at the next meeting?
We can, yeah. I think there are unfortunately, some constraints in terms of we just don't have urban renewal staff currently at this stage. So that's the major constraint. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt here. I also have to drop for the evening, but I am available on Tuesday evenings for the meetings.
Thanks, Rachel. Appreciate it.
maybe that's first
Thanks,
thing of the
everyone.
day.
Yeah. Let's make sure we're in agreement on the day. So Tuesdays at 6. Anybody feel strongly opposed to that? Obviously not on the days of a city council meeting. All right. Appreciate it. So yeah, I'll work to develop some dates sort of within these timeframes, and I think, yeah, that was extremely efficient and quick, and I appreciate it.
Yes, and I'll look forward to meeting with you, Eric, and maybe the consultants, and with Lisa, and I want to meet with each member of our task force individually in the next few months. It sometimes takes a while to organize those meetings, but I'll look forward to working with all of you.
Sounds good. Thanks for volunteering to be chair again, or volunteering to.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good meeting.
Yeah, you want to take it?
Yeah.
You want to take